Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the podcast that I, your host, David Woodruff, lovingly call the Woodruff Report. The NFL Draft 2018 edition has come and gone. Excitement at an all-time high for franchises who have a new crop of young talent entering camp now. Excitement for especially the bad teams up now with this new potential. Names that could potentially be seeing the field and making huge impacts next year. So this is a special edition of the Woodruff Report, and I will be coming at you later with a full regular edition. I'll probably talk a lot about Champions League and NBA playoffs. Game 7 between Bucks and Celtics happening as I speak. When I'm done recording this podcast, I am going to race down at top speed and catch the end of that game. Cavs-Pacers Game 7 is tomorrow, but I am digressing. I am talking about what I would talk about in my regular edition, but this isn't just any old podcast. This is a special NFL Draft Edition, 49ers Draft Edition. I'm going to detail all of the 49ers picks, where they will contribute, when they will contribute, whether it was a good pick or not, etc., etc. So if you love 49ers football, this is your podcast. If you absolutely abhor 49ers football, I advise you to take the device that you are listening to this podcast on right now and throw it into the nearest lake, because you're not going to hear about anything except 49er football on this edition of the Woodruff Report. Let's get into it. Let's talk about the new players that will potentially see the field next year, potentially make a huge impact, and hopefully raise the 49ers to a possible conference championship. A playoff berth is what we're looking for. I meant to say division championship in what looks to be a wide open NFC West with the LA Rams, who seem to be the team to beat, followed by a shaky Seahawks and Cardinals team. 49ers should be in the mix, especially with Jimmy G at the helm for a full season. Let's talk 49er football. Let's talk NFL draft. We've got some good ones coming at you in 3, 2, 1. Before I talk about the 49ers first pick, I feel I am obligated to at least touch on the beginning of the NFL draft just because it is such a showcase event. With the first pick, the Cleveland Browns took Baker Mayfield. Not even going to talk about that pick, because if I was a Browns fan, I would be throwing things left and right after that decision. Saquon Barkley, who many thought to be the best overall player in the draft, went number 2 to the G-Men, the Giants, who now have an instant contributor at a position that they've been struggling with. By the way, they were starting Paul Perkins last year, the UCLA running back. The Giants were actually starting Paul Perkins. That's how bad things got. I mean, another topic over which I could throw things, but I'm going to choose to be peaceful and not throw things. I know, I'm patting myself on the back. I'm choosing the less violent path today. 4 quarterbacks went in the top 10. That is the first time that's ever happened. Sam Darnold went at number 3 to the, why am I blanking on the name, New York Jets, the other New York team. Both New York teams were pretty terrible. Josh Allen went from the beautiful and vibrant College of Wyoming University to the beautiful and vibrant city that is in Buffalo. What a way to spend the prime years of your life, getting to go from beautiful Laramie to Buffalo. You're just getting to see the world, the Mona Lisa, the Eiffel Tower, Wyoming. These are some of the most beautiful places in the world. I am being sarcastic, but the Buffalo Bills chose Josh Allen. He seems to be the incumbent unless Nathan Peterman decides that he actually wants to be able to play football, or A.J. McCarron wins that job. And finally, the Arizona Cardinals traded up to take Josh Rosen. Boo! We hate UCLA alumni on this show, so let's hear a resounding boo for both Paul Perkins and Josh Rosen. He looks to be the quarterback of the future. Wait, Blaine Gabbert isn't the future? Yes, I am here with a hot take. Blaine Gabbert is not the next Tom Brady. Yeah, I know. Boomy all you want, but I'm pretty sure on this one. I don't even think I needed to look into the Woodruff Report crystal ball. Surprising, because I lean on that for all my hot takes, so at least I have a scapegoat when someone's wrong. Well, I'll just blame the Woodruff Report crystal ball. On this one, I'm pretty sure. But I am getting totally off topic. Again, that tends to happen when I talk about NFL draft. So let's talk about the 49ers. Going into the draft, we knew a major concern was the back end of our defense. We've got Eric Reed, we've got Jaquiski Tart, we've got Ahkello Witherspoon, but that's not, and we just got Richard Sherman out of free agency, but things needed to be shored up, especially since maybe the best player of that bunch, Eric Reed, has still not been signed long-term to a contract. We also had the Reuben Foster situation. New information has come up. Apparently, the woman, Reuben Foster's girlfriend, made up the whole story. She told her lawyer that she had made it up. So I don't think this is the end of the story, because it is kind of suspicious when someone who's been getting abused suddenly tells their lawyer that, oh no, I made everything up. Alarm bells are ringing, at least in my head. But it seems as though Reuben Foster will be on the 49ers next year and playing, which made linebacker less of a concern, but that was still a hole. The O-line needed big help, needed to be shored up. You've got your franchise passer now in Jimmy G, and you've got to protect him. I thought running back was a point of concern. We've got Matt Breida, but Carlos Hyde had just departed, and so that seemed to be an area of concern, at least in my eyes. So, with the 49ers' first-round pick, drumroll please, I want to take you through a first-person experience of me watching the draft. I'm sitting on my tan-colored couch, feeling the contours hug my body. It's a great couch. And I'm watching the NFL draft. I turn to my uncle before the pick. They're definitely taking Minkah, referring to Minkah Fitzpatrick here. I'm 100% positive. The commissioner walks up. Boo. Everyone boos the commissioner because that's what people do. Boo. I'm sitting on my couch. I don't even need to look at the TV because we're going to pick Minkah. Denzel Ward had already been chosen. The 49ers had seemed to show interest in him. He was probably the best lockdown corner in the draft. Maybe Tremaine Edmonds or Roquan Smith were going to be chosen. Roquan Smith had already been taken, so he was off the table. He was one of my favorite players in the draft. And I hear the words uttered out of the commissioner's mouth, wow, I blew it. Mike McGlinchey, tackle out of Notre Dame, and I can tell you that no emotion really emitted from me. I was just like, okay. And this doesn't mean that I didn't like the pick. It was not a sexy pick, but it was a needed pick. The 49ers decided to shore up the O-line with their first-round selection, taking Mike McGlinchey, the tackle out of Notre Dame, regarded as many to be the best, one of the best, if not the best tackles in the draft. Not the best offensive lineman. That would go to Quentin Nelson, who the Colts selected with their high pick. But the best tackle in this draft, he looks to slide right in at the right tackle position. Later, Trent Brown, our right tackle right now, was traded to the Patriots for a draft selection. So it looks as though the 49ers have moved on from Trent Brown at the right tackle position and are going all in on McGlinchey opposite of our franchise left tackle Joe Staley. I like this pick, McGlinchey, because we needed O-line help, and this shows that management understands this and is very worried about and wants to address Jimmy Garoppolo, his safety, his comfortability in the pocket, and now we'll have a good, big, strong offensive lineman who's particularly good at pass blocking. This guy can move people in the run game, but he's especially stout protecting quarterbacks. He did a good job at Notre Dame doing that, and hopefully he can translate those skills to the 49ers organization, because last year we did not have a good O-line play. So with our first-round selection, McGlinchey, tackle out of Notre Dame, I'd give this is a good pick. I'm not going to give it a draft grade. It's not. I did want Minka. Yes, I did, and I can understand why people would complain about that just because but he's more of a flashy pick. And of course you're never going to want if you had the first overall pick and someone took a lineman, you'd be like, ugh. Like, you sort of begrudgingly accept it. Like, that was probably the best decision. It's like when you're arguing with your parents and they're completely right, and you're just like, you're probably right. So that's what fans, I think, should do to general manager John Lynch and coach. You're right. This was probably something that we needed to do. This was a position we needed to address. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, 49ers organization, you're getting a very capable right tackle or left tackle. He may eventually slide in once Joe Staley decides to retire. Joe Staley is getting up there in terms of years, still playing at an elite level, but he can't last forever, especially at such an injury, at such a position where injuries run so rampant in the NFL. Moving on, with the second round selection of the NFL draft, a big surprise for me, the 49ers selected Dante Pettis, wide receiver and return specialist out of the University of Washington. Wow. I was very surprised. I was not watching the draft live, so I saw this on the ticker at the Sports Center. I was not watching the second round live. I did see the first round selection live, but not the second round selection. So I see 49ers Dante Pettis. Ooh, this is exciting, but this I do not think was the best pick for the 49ers to make. Yes, he can slide in. I'm worried about his route running abilities in the NFL just because he's more of an elusive guy. He's not known for his route running abilities. He's fast. He's great in the open field he has the most punt returns for touchdowns out of anybody in FBS history over his career. He holds that NCAA mark. So obviously he's a magician with the ball in his hand and open field in front of him and making people miss, finding the seams, stuff like that. And he'll obviously be able to immediately slide into our return game. We won't have to have Trent Taylor returning punts. Woo! This is cause for a parade and celebration because we can all just be able to watch punts without thinking there's going to be a fatality. Go back and watch Trent Taylor returning punts last year. Oh my God, it was gruesome. He'd get laid out every time. He was just getting pummeled by these NFL guys. I felt so bad for them. I had to turn the TV off during punts because I knew Trent Taylor was going to get blown about 1,600 feet back. Dante Pettis can slide in and save Trent Taylor some years of his lifespan. He can also go in on the kick return game. He can instantly contribute there. Now, he needs some development when it comes to route running and being a member of the wide receiver corps. He'll probably play sparingly in there. We've got a pretty good wide receiving corps already, headlined by, of course, we've got a good possession target in Pierre Garçon. We, of course, have the deep threat in Marquise Goodwin, and we have the prototypical slot receiver in Trent Taylor. So Dante Pettis will slide into that equation somewhere. He probably won't play a lot this first season, but he will be able to make an impact returning kicks. I did not really like this pick a lot just because there were glaring needs. I thought that more talented players could have been available in the second round to be chosen, especially at the defensive back position. I assume that John Lynch had just decided that there aren't many players with this kind of game-breaking ability, and there are sort of more defensive players that will be able, that they'll still be around later in the draft, but a guy like Dante Pettis won't be around in the draft, which I can respect that. You won't find a lot of NCAA record holders in the second round of the draft. And so he'll be able to contribute. I just don't know if this was especially what the 49ers needed. I'm not going to throw things or rage or do a whole podcast dedicated to how general manager John Lynch should be fired immediately, a la Stephen A. Smith. But I will say that I didn't completely agree with this selection. The next selection, however, I loved. In the third round of the NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers selected Fred Warner. He is a linebacker out of Brigham Young University, BYU. This guy is incredible. I encourage you to type up Fred Warner highlights immediately and take a gander. This is the kind of guy that I want on my defense. A little bit undersized to play the sort of classic Brian Urlacher linebacker, but that's not what today's NFL needs. We need speed guys who can cover, and boy is this guy fast. He's a hybrid. He can go on the edges. He can make plays in open space. He's athletic. He's long. He's lean. He's not as heavy as maybe the classic linebacker, but it's what this defense needed. You've got Reuben Foster, the big middle linebacker who can just go stuff holes and meet ball carriers at the line of scrimmage and push them back. You need some length, athleticism. This was a terrific pick in my eyes by the San Francisco 49ers, Fred Warner. Again, BYU linebacker. This guy can cover running backs out of the backfield. He can chase down athletic quarterbacks who are rolling out, doing a bootleg. He can chase down ball carriers. He can defeat blocks. He's strong. He's got good hand moves. He can fight. He can rush the passer. He can blitz. He's going to be a very good player for the 49ers going forward. Great third-round selection in Fred Warner, linebacker out of USC. Kudos to John Lynch. Kudos to Kyle Shanahan. Hopefully they contributed together to this pick. This was what the defense needed. You can never have enough length, never have enough athleticism. And Fred Warner is going to be able to provide speed, a mean streak. He was very good at drawing fumbles in college. Hopefully he can translate that skill to the NFL. But that was something he was adept at BYU, was not only forcing fumbles, but actually recovering them. He was very good at finding the ball, getting on it, scoop and score, or just falling on it. With our second third-round selection, I believe that this was the Trent Brown selection. We sent Trent Brown to the Patriots for this second, third-round pick, so we got another one. The 49ers selected DJ Moore, a very good defensive back out of Kansas State, another pick that I liked. Now, this guy's 5'9". He's short, at least for an NFL player. He's not short in real life. I mean, 5'9" is pretty tall. But but don't let his sort of lack of size, don't allow that to poison your thoughts regarding him, because this guy can straight up ball. He was a magician at Kansas State. He can come up and hit. Just because he's small doesn't mean that he avoids contact at the line of scrimmage. He loves bruising a ball carrier, but he, of course, coverage is where he makes his money. He stays right on the hip pockets. He's very good at getting in between wide receivers' hands, breaking balls up. And one thing that always irritates me is that DB who can't pick the ball off. He can knock balls away but can't intercept them. This guy's got a pair of glue. He can intercept the ball. When the ball gets near him and that wide receiver doesn't catch it, he's going to come down with it. He's not just going to knock it to the ground. He's going to get that INT, that interception, and that's so much of what the modern NFL is, turnovers. Whoever wins the turnover battle is very likely going to win the game, and DJ Moore can single-handedly swing that turnover battle with his ability to intercept the ball. He's a very good cover guy. I don't think he'll play immediately. He needs to sort of get his bearings, but he'll definitely slide into the rotation. Hopefully Richard Sherman can kind of mentor him. Richard Sherman is known for that sort of contact, questionable, is he over the line of pass interference style of playing DB. I feel like that's something DJ Moore will be able to emulate, because with his lack of size, he will need to sort of get in the wide receiver's grill, especially in the NFL where receivers like Alshon Jeffrey make their money on winning jump balls even when they're covered, just going up and getting the ball. That's something that DJ Moore will need to work on and make sure that quarterbacks can't just pick on him by throwing up 1v1 battles and wide receivers coming up with the ball. But he was actually very good at breaking up fade routes in college. Big 12 teams, he went to Kansas State, would often throw goal line fades against him because he was undersized, and he was very good at getting between the hands and establishing good position and then making sure that the wide receiver didn't come down with that ball. And in the Big 12, you've got very talented receivers, Texas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, receivers who are going to play in the NFL and can make a difference. With our second third-round selection, DJ Moore, really liked this pick out of this DB out of Kansas State, really liked this pick. He can make an impact, he can make a difference, and he shores up a weak spot on the 49ers defense right now. With our fourth round selection, the 49ers took Kentavius Street, a defensive end out of North Carolina State. He's sort of a wild card, a mystery. He's been injured for the greater part of the last 2 seasons, but he's a difference maker when he's in the game. Of course, when you talk about defensive ends out of North Carolina State, you immediately think Bradley Chubb because he's been the he was the guy that was touted as the best D lineman in the draft. But Kentavius Street, this guy can also ball. Obviously, he's not on the same level as Chubb, but he can get the job done. This guy's mean. That's sort of his motto. They call him Mean Streak Street because he's got that nastiness that lots of successful, I'm not going to say all D linemen because I play D line and I do not like to think of myself as David Mean Streak Woodruff. I think of myself as a nice guy who doesn't go out. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again, but he's got that mean attitude that many NFL defensive linemen have. Now, I'm not convinced on this guy's pass rush moves. I don't know how much of a pass rusher he'll be, but I don't think that's an issue with this 49ers D-line, with DeForest Buckner, with Eric Armstead, with Solomon Thomas, guys who can rush the passer. He is very good at just not being driven and getting into an offensive lineman, shedding that guy, and being able to make the tackle. So I see him more making an impact in run stuffing and run stopping than rushing the passer in the aerial attack game. So maybe more of a first and second down kind of player who can make sure that line of scrimmage does not move forward, in fact moves back, can shed blocks, can go find that ball carrier in the backfield and make a difference. Not convinced on this pick, but that may also be because there just isn't a lot of film on Mr. Street because he has been injured for the greater part of his last few seasons at North Carolina State. A project, someone who you can definitely take with a fourth round pick because you don't have enormous expectations. I'm not like, I can't believe you're not producing. You're our fourth round pick. Now, if he was selected number 9 overall, I'd be like, okay, Kentavius, you better change my mind. But not worried. Give him some time. I think he can become a capable player in the NFL on this young, potentially very good 49er defensive front. With our fifth round selection, we selected Tarvarius Moore, a defensive back out of Southern Miss. Another long, he's longer than DJ Reed, taller guy, loves to meet ball carriers at the line of scrimmage, loves to be physical, and he looks to be more of an instant impact just because he's longer. He fits more of the classic corner prototype in the NFL. A good player, did not play in a Power 5 conference going to Southern Miss, so not a lot of film of him going up against NFL talent, but he's got all the skills that translate to the NFL when it comes to corners. He's very good at finding the ball in the air, getting it down, does not have DJ Reed hands, won't get a lot, the ball doesn't stick to him on picks and stuff like that, but he can get the job done. He's going to be a question mark as to whether he'll start immediately because he's got good skills and the 49ers aren't exactly teeming with talent at the cornerback position. With our sixth round pick, the 49ers selected Marcel Harris, the hard-hitting safety out of the University of Florida. This guy is known for punishing people who come downfield, does not have the greatest coverage skills, but he can lay the wood. He'll hit you hard. He had a hit in the Florida State game that he just absolutely murdered whoever was playing Florida State quarterback. I mean, they had like 10 of them during the year after their starter got hurt. But he just punishes him for coming downfield. Don't you dare come into my territory, I'll slam you to the ground. He also was very good in goal line situations for the University of Florida. If you remember, they had that crazy win over LSU where they had to make a final goal line stand as time expired against future NFL running back Darius Geis, and Marcel Harris came in there and blew that play up and prevented Geis from getting into the end zone. So this guy's he'll come screaming up to the line of scrimmage from the safety position, and he can be another contributor on this defense. This did bring up the point, what's the plan with Eric Reed? Are we drafting Harris as a replacement? I don't think so, because if the plan was not to re-sign Reed, you'd take a safety earlier than the 6th round, especially at a position like safety where the people who are selected higher in the draft generally pan out more. Not so much like linemen, where late-round picks are often just as successful as first-round picks. DBs taken higher in the draft are generally better than the ones taken later in the draft. That seems like logical, but at other position groups, it's like a crapshoot. Look no further than the quarterback position. So, Marcel Harris, hard-hitting safety out of Florida's 6th-round pick. Niners had 2 7th-round picks. With the first one, they took a very promising young talent, Julian Taylor, an interior defensive lineman out of Temple University. Loved this pick. Another undersized but speedy and skillful guy. This guy was an absolute wrecking crew at Temple. He was disruptive. He was always getting bigger linemen off him. He was too fast for them to deal with, and I really liked this selection. Sort of Solomon Thomas-esque in not this big hulking dude who you just can't move, but more this speedy, crafty guy who can become very problematic on the inside. This guy's fast. You would not think of him as a defensive tackle if you saw him run, because he's quick, he's speedy, he uses his hands well. I can appreciate that as a defensive lineman, the way he uses his hands, especially undersized. If you're an undersized defensive lineman and you're letting bigger, stronger offensive linemen get their hands on you, you're done. So you have to sort of find ways to slap those hands away to remain unhindered in your pursuit of the goal, whether that be the running back or the quarterback. Like this pick, especially in the 7th round, would not expect someone like Julian Taylor to still be around in the 7th round with his skill set and his ability, but just goes to show you how good the players in the NFL draft are. Finally, the 49ers took Richie James, a playmaker out of Middle Tennessee State University. If you do not know much about Richie James, don't worry. I did not either. Just looked up his highlight reel before I recorded this podcast. And again, not a terrific route runner, very similar to Dante Pettis, but give this guy the ball in open space. Oh baby, you are in for a long night if you are a defense. This guy can break tackles. He's quick, he cuts. The 49ers need to find a way to get him the ball, maybe screen passes, maybe quick hitters, because when he gets the ball in his hands, he can dip and weave through traffic. He's fast, he's crafty, he one cut and he's already at full speed. Great pick. Really liked this one. I do not know if wide receiver was such a huge area of concern. Two of our 9 selections were wide receiver. Don't know if that was necessary. Maybe would have liked to see another offensive lineman chosen, but I can't complain. In general, this was a very good draft for the 49ers. With the first round selection, we took McGlinchey, the tackle out of Notre Dame. We selected Dante Pettis in the 2nd round, followed by Fred Warner. Tarvarius Moore was another of our 3rd round selections, the defensive back out of Southern Miss University. We then went in on the questionable Kentavius Street. Prove me wrong, Kentavius, prove me wrong. We then chose DJ Moore, the undersized but very skillful corner out of Kansas State. We followed that up with a safety, a hard-hitting one at that, in Marcel Harris out of the University of Florida. And then finally, in the 7th round, we began by taking Julian, the defensive lineman out of Temple. And finally, Richie James, game-breaking wide receiver, Middle Tennessee State University. Thank you for listening. This has been a draft edition of the Woodruff Report. I will come at you with the undrafted free agent signings that the 49ers make, analysis of who they are, what they can bring to the table, etc. That day is unfortunately not today, but keep an eye out for that. It'll be coming soon. A successful NFL draft, hope is high for the 49ers to at least compete in a wide open NFC West. I'm excited. You should be too. The draft always brings out the best in me. Just remember, I did not throw any things during this whole podcast, did not rage at all, did not ask for John Lynch to resign or anything like that. So that can only be described as a resounding success. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much for joining me. Come back very soon as I will have a full regular Woodruff Report edition where we talk about Champions League, NBA playoffs, all of that. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful week. This has been the Woodruff Report. I'm your host, David Woodruff. Thank you so much for joining us.